I met Sarah this morning from Don College, my old school. Don College is a public senior secondary school in Devonport. Sarah told me her younger brother desperately needs support, but the school doesn't have any support staff. She also told me that when her maths teacher broke her hip, her relief teachers weren't even maths teachers. Don College also has no Wi-Fi, and they couldn't have a school camp because they simply didn't have the money. Meanwhile, when the government announced $30 million for school infrastructure upgrades, some of that money went to Tasmania's most expensive private schools. What is wrong with this picture? The Gonski report was released in 2012. It laid out a plan for needs-based funding. The more in need the kids were, the more government funding that school would get. The Gonski report also recommended that governments reduce payments to overfunded schools that didn't need them and redirect funds on a needs-based model. As Gonski put it at the time, and I quote, "Differences in educational outcomes should not be the result of differences in wealth, income, power or possessions," end quote. Gonski's family came from humble beginnings. He knew what difference a good education made. Its key recommendation was that Schooling Resource Standard, the SRC, a base rate of funding per student with additional loading for disadvantage. The SRS would determine the required funding needed for each school, but a decade on, most public schools are yet to reach the full funding and more funding has gone to the less needy schools. In 2010, Prime Minister Julia Gillard insisted that your postcode shouldn't determine how well you do in life. But in 2024, apparently it still does. On average, our poorest kids are 3 years behind the kids from our wealthy households. Gonski was a Labor reform and the Education Minister, Jason Clare, has vowed to fix the funding gap. The states are close to getting their 75% of funding together, but now the government is only offering 22.5%. So just do the right thing, lift another 2.5 and give them their 25%. That is what they are asking for. So while private schools are getting taxpayer dollars to build libraries that look like castles, and that's a true story, believe me, that is a true story, and sports centres with Olympic swimming pools, the demandables that were at Don College at Don College now, were the demandables there when I was there, we won't say how many years ago, but many, many years ago. So I can assure you, I'm telling you, this is really not fair. But, you know, when our poorest kids are now starting to slip below because we are not funding those public schools, all right, and there is a significant difference between those rich schools and our public schools, we have a serious class problem in this country. We seriously do. And if it means taking some off the rich and giving to the poor, then maybe it's about time we did that. I'm sorry, but I don't want these kids, the most disadvantaged out there, missing out anymore. It is not fair. It is not fair, and I've absolutely had a gutful of class in this country.